Today we're going to talk about Athens and Sparta, Hellas's two most powerful city-states. Our essential question is, how were Athens and Sparta alike and different? That's what we'll be talking about in our notes for today. First, we're going to look at the alikes. The first is that both were powerful city-states near one another. If you notice on the map here of Hellas, Athens and Sparta are pretty close to one another. Another way they were both alike is that they both had hoplites. Hoplites are the Greek word for soldiers, and here is a picture of one. Greek soldiers had metal chest plates, metal leg guards, sandals. They had a big shield with their city's emblem painted on the front of it. They had a long spear, and they wore strange-looking helmets that had brushes on them that were mainly for decoration. This was a Greek hoplite. A third way they were alike is that they both spoke the same language, ancient Greek, the one that you looked at a while back. Now we're going to look at their differences. And there were many, many differences between Athens and Sparta. The first difference we're going to look at is their patron gods. Athens' patron god was named Athena. Athena was the goddess of war and wisdom. She was the daughter of Zeus, and she was understood to have strong military strategy and intelligence. She was very smart in the art of war. Her brother, also son of Zeus, was Ares, the god of war. Ares was Sparta's patron god. Ares was said to be violent and almost uncontrollable, which was somewhat like what the Spartan army was. Our next difference is their location. Athens, as you see on the map here, was found on a peninsula. This encouraged sea travel between Athens and other cities on other islands out here. Athens met them, made friends with them, traded with them, and adapted ideas from them. Sparta, on the other hand, was located between two mountains, which isolated them. You remember the word isolated means separated. Sparta tended to stay to themselves and did not interact with other cities at all. Our next difference between Athens and Sparta was their population. Athens had 150,000 people. Many tourists were invited to Athens, and they had some slaves that they brought in from other places. The slaves, most people said, in Athens were treated rather well. Sparta, on the other hand, had only 25,000 people, much, much smaller, but they had 100,000 slaves. They called their slaves helots. In the picture in the lower left, you see a helot working in a Spartan field, being guarded by a Spartan soldier. Helots had to do the jobs in the farms while the Spartan soldiers were off fighting their wars. The people of Athens, in the next category, were mainly farmers, craftsmen, teachers, and the women in Athens stayed home. Sparta, on the other hand, had soldiers and craftsmen, they called them periokoi, and women ran the farms. Women had a lot more rights in Sparta than they did in Athens. This slide shows the role of women in Sparta. You do not need to take any notes here, just follow along with me. Women in Sparta had rights that other Greek women did not have. They were strong, they could own property, and they didn't have to do chores such as cooking and weaving that they had to do in other city-states like Athens. So in that respect, women were probably treated better in Sparta than they were in Athens. The next difference between Athens and Sparta we're going to talk about is called relationships. Athens liked meeting new people. They learned things from them. We talked about how they sailed on the peninsula to new cities and met new people and they're trading with them. Sparta never contacted anyone unless they attacked them to take their land. The final topic we're going to talk about on this slide is government. Athens' government was called a democracy. In a democracy, men get to vote. They had to be over 18 and they got to vote for their laws and leaders. Unfortunately, in Athens, women didn't get to vote. Sparta, on the other hand, had a different kind of government called an oligarchy. An oligarchy is a group of leaders, not just a single leader, but a group. In Sparta, their oligarchy was made up of 2 kings who protected them in war and 28 men who made laws and decisions for them. One really big difference between Athens and Sparta was their education. In Athens, boys got to go to school starting at age 7. Girls did their education at home, either trained by their mother or a teacher that was paid for by the family to come to the home to teach the girls. And adults got to go to college, the very first college that was ever created, called the academy. So Athens' priority was education. Sparta, on the other hand, their education was all about training for war. Kids at age 7 went to a training camp called the agoge. This was especially tough for boys who had to learn how to fight, become stronger, follow orders, and train. Girls had their own separate training camp that was a little bit less severe, but still had to work very hard, fight, get stronger, and learn how to follow orders. The militaries between Athens and Sparta were a big difference. Athens' military was made of the strongest navy with warships called triremes, which you see in the middle picture there. Athens soldiers had to be in their army for 2 years. Sparta, on the other hand, had the strongest army in Hellas, soldiers who fought on the ground. Their training actually began at birth, when Spartan generals looked at babies that were just born and decided whether they were fit enough to become full soldiers later. Unfit babies were put in a basket and set out on the countryside to die. Kids, we said, began their training in the agoge at age 7. And once they passed a fitness test, they became Spartan police, called the Cryptia. Cryptia protected the city. Sparta's army was called Spartiates, and they fought to protect the city-state and to get new land for the city-state by attacking other city-states. Sparta's soldiers were very successful by using a formation called a phalanx. A phalanx is a group of soldiers that stand side by side and they use each other's shields to protect them. Sparta's soldiers were known for their bravery, and even when they were outnumbered, they often fought to the end. One of the most famous battles was when 300 Spartans held off the entire Persian army at the Battle of Thermopylae. If you've seen the movie 300, it is based on this famous battle. Here is another view of a Spartan phalanx. Notice the soldiers are standing side by side, and their shields are actually protecting the soldier right next to them. If arrows were shot, the soldiers in the middle would raise their shields over everyone's head to protect them. It became kind of like a tank, protected on all sides by their metal shields. Another difference between Athens and Sparta was their economy. The word economy means how did they get things they wanted. Athens had coins, as you can see in the lower left corner. The coin had the face of Athena, their goddess, on the front, and Athena's pet bird, the owl, on the back. They used their coins when they went shopping in the agora, which was their shopping area, and they also used coins when they traded with other cities. Sparta had strange-looking coins. They were long iron bars. Most people did not use Spartan coins because they were so difficult to carry, and that was the point. Sparta did not want their coins to be mixed in with other people's coins. They did little shopping in Sparta and did not trade with their neighbors at all. Another difference between Athens and Sparta were their leaders. Athens was famous for two leaders that they had. One was named Pericles and another was named Solon. Both of these guys created voting and jury trials in Athens and gave a lot of freedom to the people at the time. Sparta was famous for one of their leaders, a guy named Lycurgus. Lycurgus was the one who created the agoge system and the military system that Sparta had. One last difference between Athens and Sparta was the things that were important to them. In Athens, plays, shopping, education, making beautiful art and building beautiful buildings were very important to them. One beautiful building was the Parthenon, the beautiful temple in the center picture, and the theater in the picture in the left. People called philosophers who liked to discuss new ideas met all the time and discussed things about life that they thought were cool and interesting. Sparta, on the other hand, were encouraged to have simple lives. The word for simple is called austere. Girls cut their hair very, very short, wore no makeup, no jewelry, had very basic clothes. And guys, most of them, spent their times fighting in wars. Their houses were simple, very few pieces of furniture. They slept on straw beds on their floor mainly because it was all about being tough and strong, both mentally and physically. Girls were encouraged to be fighters because they had to defend Sparta if anything ever happened to the guys. Now, for your summary question, I want you to tell me 2 ways Athens and Sparta were alike and 2 ways they were different. Underneath that, please write any questions that you have, if you have any, and I will answer them for you when I check your notes. Thank you.